My hat. There, that's why. I gotta have my hat on, no wonder. Thank you for clicking the play button, everybody. Today I am going to be reading a short story I wrote. The short story is called A Clear Signal. It is Christian fiction because I am a Christian fiction author. And if you like to read Christian fiction, I think you're in the right place because that's what I do, and I want to be your new favorite author. If you like the story, I would like you to like this video. And if you really like this story, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, if you wouldn't mind. Alright, here it is. They say that preaching the gospel is like scattering seed. Imagine how well that works in the frozen grounds of the Mackenzie Mountains. That is why I was praying. I was asking God to lead me to someone specific and obvious. I guess it was a clear signal I asked for. Something to remind me of His sovereignty, and to let me know that I was not wasting my time as a missionary out here in the cold. God answered my prayer. While I was still praying, a heavy knock pounded on my door. I did not expect it to be that easy, so I got up with less excitement than I should have. In hindsight, I must repent. A pounding like that usually means someone has fallen ill or has broken a bone. By the time I opened the door, the knocker was running off down the road. He yelled over his shoulder, "Benice goes up the tower! I think he's gonna jump!" He was not seeking my help. He was a gossip spreading the word. It had to sink in, but then I went out of my door and looked over the roof of my house where the tower stood. The tower always seemed out of place to me. It was a weather station, I think, as well as a communication center, the only way information got in or out of the village. Its bare metal frame blended into the sky like a ghost, and it was easy to forget it was there, standing 100 feet taller than everything else. I squinted and traced its sketchy outline upward. I could see him against the white sky, a black dot of a man. This had happened twice before, both before my time, and both had ended tragically. It had been the same scenario. After a half-life in the dark shadows of the Mackenzie Mountains, men can feel as meaningless as buried rock and frozen ground. There was alcohol involved, of course, an amount surpassing numbness and giving them courage of the worst kind. Surely this case with Benisco was the same. I was not the only one looking. The whole village was outside their doors, necks twisted, waiting, watching. They had all watched the last two jump to their deaths. What was a third to them? I could not once. So I ran inside and pulled my boots on, thanking God for such a swift answer to prayer. I grabbed my parka and fought my way into it as I went. I ran all the way to the communication center. My feet hurt against the frozen ground. My lungs stung with the sharp air. My breath was short and visible before me, falling fast like a stone. I scuttled over the flimsy fence that encircled the tower before realizing what I was committing myself to, a perilous climb. I took hold of the lowest rung. It was freezing. I confess it caused me to hesitate, but I could not have pulled my hand away, even if I tried. Not after all of my prayers. Besides, I had not necessitated that God should place the would-be convert on the ground. While I stood there, I heard a small voice. "Take off your coat," it said. I turned to see a woman standing in the doorway of the building. It was her job, at least on this particular day, to send and receive messages for the village. I took her advice, deciding the extra bulk would be a dangerous hindrance. Then I climbed, praying that such a desperate man as was above might cling tighter to the gospel than to a tower. My hands quickly became numb. I could hardly keep a grip. I shivered so violently that I thought my body would shake loose and throw me down, and I regretted listening to the woman, because the higher I climbed, the worse it got. The cold wind drew icy liquid from my eyes, and it was not long before I was climbing, half blind. Unfortunately, my blindness did not protect me from the view. I told myself not to, but I looked down. General wisdom tells you not to, and now I know why. It's not because fear sets in when you do. The fear is there all along. It is because gravity has a way of strengthening. With my numb hands, I had the strange feeling that I was latched to nothing, that God alone suspended me above the village. I could feel the weight of my body, yet I was not falling. Far below, a crowd had formed. This novelty must have been new to them. Instead of watching from afar to see if the little black dot would drop, they came close to watch the odds of its rescue. When I looked up, I saw that I had a long way to go. The sky was blank and white and had its own movement, more wild than the wind, which made me dizzy. I refocused my attention, looking only for the next feeble handhold, and I advanced against the gravity and the cold and the wind. I came to realize the woman's wisdom. The wind was strong. Had I been wearing my parka, it would have grabbed me like a sail. By the time I reached Benisco, I was unsure if I would have the strength to make it down. Still, he was worse off. He hung on like a lazy sloth, an arm and a leg wrapped around a rail, the other limbs dangling. Only the coldness locked his joints in place, keeping him from slipping away. He appeared to be sleeping, not shivering in the least bit, and I knew that was a bad sign. "Don't you know where you are?" I yelled. Benisco's eyes opened. They were pointing down, and the sight caused him to flinch and grope for metal. He had some fear left in him. That was a good sign. He said something, but his words were taken by the wind. I asked him to repeat them. "I just want to see," he said. He was not talking about the view. It was a perfectly clear day. He might have been able to see everything that was ever created. He was talking about things that could not be seen, and that was exactly why I had climbed. I had asked for a clear signal, and what better place to send and receive the gospel than the tip of the communication tower? That would be funny from the ground. Before I could tell him anything visible, Benisco began to descend. "I'll climb back down with you." That was all I ended up saying to him. I felt foolish for saying it because, of course, I was going to climb back down, if my body allowed it. Despite his time on the tower, Benisco was agile. He beat me down and the crowd received him with happy cheers. I was still a ways up when they rushed off to celebrate without a thought of the man who came to his rescue. I doubt that it will ever dawn on Benisco, or anyone else for that matter, that it was the missionary who climbed up for him, and it was Christ who compelled that. I dropped from the last beam, painfully numb. I know I should have been happy. Benisco lived. But to be honest, I was utterly disappointed. I wanted to tell him that Christ is life himself, and the creator of all things, seen and unseen. I wanted to tell Benisco that despair comes from sin, and sin was the only thing that needed to be hurled off a tower that day. I nearly folded over thinking of what he had said. He just wanted to see. Apparently he had seen something. I don't know what. Something worth living for, I guess. Perhaps the heads of his friends and the roof of the tavern, because that's where they took him, to the tavern to celebrate. Well, not everyone was gone. The woman was there holding my coat. I put it on quickly, willing it to hug me tighter. "What did you say to him?" she wanted to know. "Nothing," I said. She shifted her weight. "Then how did you save him?" Between breaths blown on my stinging hands, I told her the truth. I didn't. I don't think I could have. She was confused. She had curious eyes that made me marvel at the mystery of God and how he did his work. I didn't say anything to him, I confessed. But if you let me warm up inside, I'll tell you what I was going to say. Her name was Mizaquan. It is a beautiful name. It means a clear sky. It was for her that God sent me running to the tower. On that cold, clear day, the woman who received signals for the village received the greatest message ever sent. The end. Okay, that's my story. I'm really glad you listened through it. I hope I did a good job reading it. If you liked it, can I ask you to give this video a thumbs up? There's my thumb. And if you really liked it, like in the sense of you would love to hear more stories, because I do plan on reading more stories on this channel. I think I'm going to compile them in a playlist so they're easy to find for you. And if you'd like to hear more, then would you please subscribe to the channel in that case? I would appreciate that. Okay, and now, so just for a little bit about this story, for those who are still with me, this story was a chapter in a book I wrote just a few years ago. The book was called The Mackenzie Martyr. And this chapter, although I loved it, it just wasn't fitting in the overall story structure. So I couldn't bring myself to delete it. I saved it and put it aside for a future short story, and that's what I read here today. Although it has been changed quite a bit, just to, you know, because it was out of context, because it was in the context of the book, you know. And the reason it didn't fit was it was a backstory to a character who was already passed away when the story started. And it wasn't necessary to have like a bunch of backstory for this deceased character. He was a catalyst in the story for sure, but he wasn't warranting a lot of actual like main, like a scene with where he was the main character, basically. So anyway, to make a long story short, to make a short story even shorter, I took that out and I rewrote it, and this is what I got here. Another thing about the story is that name I mentioned at the end, the girl. I can't pronounce her name unless I see it. What did I say? Her name is Mizaquan. It means a clear sky. That's a real name. I spent so much time researching and trying to find names of First Nations people from Canada that would have lived around the Mackenzie Mountains, and I found so many great names, but their meanings just didn't like fit great with the story. And finally I came across this name, which means a clear sky. Literally it means like there's no clouds in the sky, and it just fit good with a clear signal. And I put those two together. I think it worked out really well. It was funny, before I made this video, I was like thinking, was that a real name? Or did I just get so exhausted looking for one that I ended up making up the name or making up the meaning of the name? I couldn't remember, but because I am a fiction author, so I do make stuff up. But no, that's an actual name, and that's the actual meaning of that name. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the tower itself. It's the looming thing in this town. It's in the book, The Mackenzie Martyr, as a pretty I was going to say as a character, but it's not to that level, but as a prominent object in the book. And it's very imposing on the town. It's a very small village in the mountains with short one-story wood structure buildings and a humongous metal tower in the middle of it all. You've probably seen them before. It's just a basic cell tower, and that's kind of what I'm picturing when I wrote this story of the missionary climbing up to rescue Benisco. All right, so let's keep this short story short, and let me say thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, thumbs up. If you liked it a lot, then please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, remember Christ, the author of salvation and the reader of your heart.